Hello, hello. My part is X of this. Then I will do this. And then I will do, all right. Hello. Okay, here we go. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. All right. Hello, hello, hello. This is Adelai Brown, your heart coach, and I want to welcome you to another segment of Heart Talk. Heart Talk is our weekly empowerment session where we come together and do inner healing. We're working on inner healing our hearts, transforming our lives, and we do that through thought talking. We do that through processing. We do that through honesty, authenticity, enlightenment, revitalization, transformation, hence the heart talk, right? We're going to be honest with one another, authentic with one another, loving towards one another. But most of all, we're growing and cultivating what I call heart equity, which is personal, relational, and financial wealth that we grow through authentic living. And I'm really committed to this. I live my life this way. And tonight, I'm really excited about the call because ever since we've been doing Heart Talk has been about healing and restoration. It has not, I get on here, I jokingly say I get on here and tell my business, but really I'm living by Revelations 12 and 11. We overcame him, talking about the enemy, by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. And I have found that my testimony has absolutely been intricate and just integral, if that's the word I'm trying to use, um integral, I'll say that too, part of my healing, restoration, the work that I do, and just being able to not just impact my life but impact the lives of others. So I say all of that to say tonight's call, we're talking about the power of self reflection, being aware. Another way of saying self reflection is being aware. We're talking about the power of self reflection when it comes to dealing with challenging family relationships. Good evening, everyone. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I'm so happy to have y'all here. So, my my point for this is I realized in my own life that I was not going to get any further than my secrets. I realized I was not going to ever be able to aspire any higher than any anger, resentment, frustration that I had. And even this past, I'll say, week or so, I've been really processing just it's coming up on a year that my mom passed away, and it really does feel like yesterday. It doesn't the pain doesn't necessarily subside. It's not like it actually feels any better. It still hurts. It sometimes it hurts just like I just found out. And so one of the things that I was thinking about is, God does everything for a reason. We understand that. Everything happens for a reason. We understand that. Now, my thing was, okay, I get that with my mom, but I also realized that in my life, I have other situations that are going on that could cause grief, that could cause challenges, right? There are other relationships with family. And when we talk about family, it could be your foo, which is your family of origin, meaning like your mom and dad and your siblings. And then you're talking about like then you talk about your extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, all of those people that fall into that. And then for many of us, family. all friends are like family, right? So we have a lot of friends who are like family. And so when we talk about having these challenging relationships, I want you to understand, and let's be honest, like it's a big part of how we navigate through life. And I really believe that these relationships in our lives, we're going through these things because we are learning how to, it's not so much about the people we're experiencing. It's not so much about the person that's in front of you, but it is about who you're becoming, like who you are and who you're becoming, and what you're learning about this situation, what you learn about yourself, what you learn about this person, what you learn about how you need to navigate in life. And how you process that is often determined by everything that's happened up until that point. So we bring that baggage, whether it's good baggage that we want to carry or negative baggage that we don't, but we bring that baggage into our relationships, all of our relationships. And I've been thinking a lot about this. Like, many of us are loving and caring and outgoing, and we all can have challenges when it comes to dealing with people. And many of us can say, "Well, I'm fine. I don't have a problem with anybody," but it's people that have a problem with me. And that's fine. I understand that. But sometimes if you find yourself especially saying that a lot, um it might be beneficial to you to take the time and look at yourself and say, you know what? I maybe I could reflect on this. I'm noticing that a lot of people are responding to me the same way. Maybe this is something that I need to work on. Maybe this is something that I need to evaluate in my life. It's not even so much about being wrong, it's about growth. And that's why I wanted to talk with us about this tonight, because I realized that self reflection, self awareness, like my first two steps in my process, connection and awareness. I believe that our faith, for me, my faith in Jesus Christ, is a big part of any type of growth, development, healing that we're going to go through. But I believe that for many of us, whether we like to acknowledge it or not, however we're moving about in life, it goes back to that food, right? That family of origin, right? However we moving through life, it's going back to that those experiences in the neighborhood. It's going back to that first, second, third, fourth, sixth grade teacher, right? Whatever that, wherever we are in life, um, we will find ourselves going back to these specific times in our life, and it usually causes us to reference the people in our lives. And some of them were there then and not here now, but some of them are still here now. And and it's so many things I want to touch on with this, but I'm putting this out here because I'm sitting here processing grief, and I've been talking about, losing my mom and grief, like getting back on Heart Talk. This is how I heal. But Heart Talk has always been a space that's designed for us to get on and share and just talk about, where we are, what we're going through, and even some of the challenges that we have. But as we come up on a year of her being gone, and I'm sitting here thinking about like just how much I miss her. Today I was riding around showing some houses in Orangeburg, and I just kept thinking, man, oh gosh, it just hurts so bad riding around Orangeburg, and I'm not able to talk to my mom. I'm not able to, she probably, if she was home, she'd have been riding around with me, or we would have went to lunch, or she would have cooked me lunch, or something like that. Or even if she was at work, it just would have been a thing. And I realized that, this is just going to always be a part of it, right? And people talk about how grief comes in waves. And I started thinking about, I lost my mom, but I also thought about how, you know, it's so many things that we go through in life that we're grieving. It's so many things in life that we go through, that many times we get stuck and don't even realize. I was studying grief, and I have a couple links, just some things that I was looking up about grief. And it described grief as like an anguish experience after a significant loss, usually the death of a beloved person. Grief often includes the psychological distress, separation anxiety, confusion, yearning, obsessive dwelling on the past, and apprehension about the future. Intense grief can become life threatening through disruption of the immune system, self neglect, and suicidal thoughts. Grief may also take the form of regret from something lost, remorse for something done, or sorry for a mishap to oneself. And so I wanted to talk about it because all of us have dealt with grief, the loss of a loved one. But I don't want to assume, but I also feel like many of us have also dealt with the loss of a relationship with a family member, right? Or the loss or the change in how that relationship has been. And I talk to people many times who often are holding resentment and have a grudge against a particular family member. Or what I really experience a lot is people that are in denial about it. They're like, "Oh, I'm over it," or "I got over that." But their behavior doesn't show that. Their demeanor doesn't show that, right? And as I was thinking about heart talk, I just really thought about how me getting on heart talk, sharing my testimony, my frustrations with my family, my marriage, myself, just wrestling with God, and how that helped to restore my relationship, so many relationships in my life. And it also helps me to navigate the current relationships. And I talk to so many people in my coaching sessions, just out and about, just in different experiences, who are just stuck. They're stuck and they're in a cycle. And a lot of times the cycle doesn't show up like a unresolved issue in the family, right? Because there's so many things that can fall under that, right? So that's why I talk about challenging family relationships, because we all have different dynamics. But many of us, especially us in the black culture, we've been taught, you got to look out for family. What goes on in this house stays in this house. And so what happens is we all go out in society and experience life, real life. Just life be life, and no matter who you are, white, black, red, green, purple, pink. But also as people of color in America, which is a whole nother experience that can be very challenging. And we bring these things back, right? And we just, a lot of times we just stuff it. And a lot of times we just act like it's okay, and we got to protect everybody. So I'm not going to say anything because this is just how there's so many people I talk to. And they'll say, "Oh, we don't, my family, we're not huggers. We don't show a lot of affection, but we just know that we love each other." And like when I study just human nature and just how we are, humans need affection. Like we all need different things in different levels, but we need it, right? We also need to be seen. We also need to be heard, right? And so as we go throughout like this session, there was different things that I wanted to talk about. I want you to think about just areas in your life, that places that you might be experiencing challenges. They could be physical challenges, financial challenges, relationship challenges, creative challenges, health challenges. And really do some reflection on, when you think about those challenges, what are other things that come to mind? Who are the people that come to mind? What are some of the experiences that come to mind? Right? Um, like we all have issues, and I know for me, many times my reflection and awareness helped me see how I felt about myself, and my life experience helped me take on a victim role. Right? I realized I didn't present myself like I was helpless or hopeless, but that's how I felt on the inside. And the Bible tells us, as a man thinketh, so is he, right? So even though many of us present with this strong, um, confident, educated, put together persona, and it's real. I won't even say that it's real. I believe that we are that girl or that guy, that chick or that dude. Like I do believe that. However, many of us it is a facade from how we really feel on the inside. It's a disconnect. And a lot of it goes back to not being connected, not being aware, being more self-conscious, but not being aware. And for me, like just dealing with grief is helping me to look at all the other relationships in my life because guess what? My mom's sudden death, and even as I look back, there were signs and things like that. I get that, but my mom's sudden death really helped me to start to put in perspective on what's important and what's not. It helped me to start to look at, who I love and how do I want to be in relationship with them. And then to even do that scary question and ask why. Like, am I avoiding some people? Am I, like intentionally avoiding them? Are there some people I need to lean into that I've intentionally pulled away from? Are there people I'm intentionally leaning into that I need to pull away from? And so a lot of times in life, we give away our power to other people. We give away our power to the circumstances, like especially what's going on in our country right now in our world. And we'll blame everybody else for the discontentment on the inside. And what I'm saying is, let's be very reflective. Let's start to look on the inside and be aware so that we can grow, so that we can grow, right? It's not about dwelling on the past. But what comes up needs to come out, right? And healing is a process and it's also work. And our bodies heal every night when we lay down and go to sleep. So you can't tell me your soul don't need to heal. Anybody have any comments or questions? Anyone want to share? Anything came up for you while I'm talking about this topic? I remember I'm talking about like right now I'm talking about okay, um grief because I believe that many of us are experiencing serious family challenges. And I believe that a lot of those challenges are there because people are not and have not been grieving properly the experiences that they've been going through. And it's not just about death. I remember one time when I first started doing Heart Talk and my mom made Heart Talk with me, and boy, it used to get rough because we would have some tense times because sometimes I'd be talking about her, sometimes she talk about me, but she had her places that she can go and talk about me. Heart Talk, it just used to be interesting, but we always joked about and laughed about how Heart Talk um really help us grow. But one of the things why I brought that up is because I remember one time after it was around the time of like finishing doing Heart Talk or preparing for Heart Talk, and I remember I just had this like I just heard like you know you gotta like let it go. Like I had a I talk about growing up and having a harsh, a struggle growing up and having challenges with my mom with her sicknesses and my dad not being there and all of those things. But the Lord made it very clear to me that that did happen when I was a child, and there were a lot of things that were out of my control. But the suffering and the pain and the anger and all of that stuff that I'm going through at this moment, I was doing that to myself. And I was doing it to myself because I was focusing so much on what didn't work and what happened to me instead of dealing with where I am now and how can I move forward with that. Right. And so long before my mother passed away and transitioned out of this particular dimension in life, I remember God telling me, look, you got to grieve the mother you thought she was supposed to be, the mother you wanted her to be, you have to grieve that. You got to grieve it. Like you got to let it go, right? Like and I'm going to read through some of the stages of grief because we like to associate grief with death, but a lot of us are kind of stuck in a holding pattern because we haven't grieved how something didn't work out, or how someone wasn't who we wanted them to be, or how they didn't show up the way we would have liked, right? Some of us have not grieved the disappointment we've caused to others, right? Instead of grieving it, we just try to overachieve. We try to overdo it on the good side because we still can't quite deal with this loss, right? And so I remember feeling like, okay, I need to grieve this. And it was like I had to let go of the mother I thought I wanted her to be, because it wasn't even so much about me wanting her to be that mother. It was about how I thought that type of mother that I had in my head would have made me feel, would have treated me, would have mothered me. I didn't know for sure. This is what I'm thinking, right? And many times we get caught up in expectations, right? And a lot of the expectations, we get disappointed because people don't meet our expectations. A lot of times we have not expressed those expectations. A lot of times we have not even challenged those expectations. um a lot of times we have not even, like, in any way shape or form communicated, but we expect people to reach that standard, meet that goal, or they should just know. No, they don't know. Not if you don't tell them, not if you don't express it in some kind of way. And so when I acknowledged through that growth process, and see, we live in a world that does not applaud you for slowing down. But if you ever think about it, that's why people say after the dust settled, after everything stops spinning, it's like when you get clarity, when you can move forward, is when you slow down. That's why we need to reflect. We need to reflect on the relationships that we're currently in. We need to reflect on the relationships we're not in. We need to reflect on the relationships that are around us, because guess what? Relationships are our most valuable currency. Our relationship with Christ, especially for those of us that believe in the death, burial, resurrection of Jesus Christ, like this relationship with Christ is all about relationship. It's a faith. We get caught up and think, I need to get the bag. I need to get this type. I need to build wealth some other way. And relational wealth is the thing. So it is important. Yes, we have to set boundaries. Yes, some people are toxic. Yes, some people need to be left where they are. However, how you feel about them, what you think about them, your love towards them needs to be pure. You know why? Because if not, it's going to taint your body, your heart. What I just read, holding on to grief, things not working out your way, things not going the way you plan, holding on to those things can make you sick. Being angry for people with people for not showing up, being dismissive when you know that's what you need. And a lot of people are in denial. When I was reading up about grief, and I'm gonna go through that in a second, um, I was just sitting there like just thinking it's not about death. It's about so many different things. There's a type of grief they call inhibited grief. When people are numb, right? They don't even know that. I'm gonna read this to you because this blew my mind. This absolutely blew my mind. They talk about the five stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. I find myself literally rotating through all of those stages. Um, and it's just amazing how you just have to process um such intense change in your life, right? Because that's really what it is, growth in your life, right? Um, It says many people, this is from the Cleveland Clinic. Many people reduce these stages to linear steps. Everyone must experience many people reduce the stages of grief to linear steps everyone must experience to grieve, but the stages aren't and were never intended to be rules. Not everyone who grieves experiences these stages, and they don't have to happen in any particular order. But it says, what are the types of grief? So anticipatory grief, um, is grieving before actual loss. For example, you may be grieving when you learn someone has a terminal illness, or a divorce, or your relationship is not working out, and a divorce is maybe looming, or something is falling out. You might be anticipating grief. Um, Abbreviated grief is quick grief. Um, it usually comes after anticipatory because you've already kind of grieved the process. It made me think about when David grieved the first baby Bathsheba had, anticipatory grief. And then he had abbreviated grief because he just was like, after the baby died, he was like, okay, that was God's answer. Got to live with that. And he ate and went on. Um, Delayed grief, instead of experiencing emotions that accompany grief immediately after a loss, you feel them days, weeks, or even months later. In some instances, the shock of the loss pauses your body's ability to work through these emotions, or you may be so busy handling the practical matters that accompany loss that your body can't grieve until you've handled these responsibilities. I absolutely felt that in the wake of mommy passing. Inhibited grief. I found this interesting. Inhibited grief involves repressing emotions. Most of us haven't been taught how to process or even how to recognize the confusing emotions that can rise at any time when we're grieving or at any time. As a result, many people who repress their emotions don't realize they're doing so. Unfortunately, when you don't allow yourself to pause and feel these emotions, grief often shows up as physical symptoms like an upset stomach, insomnia, anxiety, or even panic attacks. And then it talks about cumulative grief, and it's just talking about compounding. Like you lose a child, and then you have a divorce, and maybe there's a death in the family or some type of unexpected illness, right? And it talks about just different stages of grief and the different emotions. I'm not going into all of that, but it talks about different ways, different things you can grieve. It says like the loss of a friend, family member, partner, pet, a marriage, a friendship, another form, or any other form of kinship. When you lose your home, your neighborhood, or your community, your job or your career, financial stability, a dream or goal, good health, your youth, fertility, right? So these are all things that we can grieve. And what I have found is hurting people hurt people. And being in real estate, I have found so many uh we talk about gentrification a lot. You see that in the news. They talk about the loss of black wealth. You see those things in the news. But being a realtor, I really get to experience these things firsthand. And even in my own family, like when people have not been reflective and have not confronted the issues that they have in their relationships, it doesn't just affect you as an individual. It affects your family and it affects your family for generations, right? I see people selling family land and just doing different things just to be mean, just to have power or even out of greed, right? And you'll have people pleading with them or let me buy this from you or let me do whatever. No, I'm selling it because I want this. And these will be the same people talking about, oh, and all these, people coming around here and family ain't family like it used to be. And I used to be naive to it. But when I started really being committed to doing heart work and inner healing, I was like, I this heart equity message is so personal to me because I see every day how your personal wealth impacts your relational wealth, which impacts your financial wealth, especially in real estate. So many people are losing their wealth. So many people are losing out on so much because they can't see eye to eye. They can't come to a resolve. They can't work together. And I truly believe that they can, but I also realize that they're not, just like it talked about. So many of us have never been taught to express our emotions. They're so bottled up, but they show up in our actions. They show up in our health or the lack thereof. They show up in how we spend our money, right? And so your relationship with yourself and those around you is very important, right? So I talked about how God told me like I had to grieve that relationship, like how I thought my mom was supposed to be. I also had to grieve how I thought my husband was supposed to be, right? Because I have these like expectations, or this is what I think a husband should be, and this is what I think. And just like with my mom, it comes from pulling bits and pieces from people that I've watched, a lot of it TV influence from people who don't necessarily care about me, right? Don't necessarily feel my same values, but they present a pretty picture like what we see a lot of on social media, right? And the Lord told me you have to grieve that. And I remember thinking, gosh, I got to grieve all these things. Yes, because it hurts to let go of an ideal. It hurts to let go of a belief that you have forever. It especially hurts when you have to do it when the people you love around you still believe this and you don't, right? But what I had to realize was I was putting these expectations on them, unspoken, um, uncommunicated expectations on them, expecting them to live up to it because I wasn't doing the necessary work on myself. I wasn't allowing myself to be healed and realizing my wholeness, right? Acting, moving from a fractional space, feeling like the victim. So I felt like they need to do what they needed to do to make me feel better, or they needed to do what they needed to do so that, yeah, so I could feel better, so that I could feel more secure. But really, me feeling more secure does not come from an external space. It's internal. And that's why I talked about us being reflective, dealing with challenging family relationships. So I started, um, there are a couple relationships in my family that were very challenging for me over the years, to include my marriage and my relationship with both of my parents. But one relationship in particular with a family member that I was extremely close with when I was younger. And as I got older, we were not so close. And I remember I made up in my mind, like this person, you know, we were not close because this person thought that they were better than me. This person did not want to be around me. This person didn't want their kids around me, which also my family members, because me and my mom were not good enough. And I really believed that for years. And it hurt. It hurt to believe that somebody I love and admired and was so close to at one point would feel that way about me. Did that person ever say that to me? Absolutely not. Did anybody ever come and tell me that that person said that to me? No, not at all. But there was a time when we were together a lot and then we weren't. And so I made up in my mind that that's why we weren't. That wasn't necessarily the truth, but I believed that for 20 years. And then at least 20, probably about 20 years at least. And then not just that, not only did I believe that, there were many situations that took place in our family that kind of encouraged and like supported what I was already thinking, right? And I remember one time after Heart Talk, I felt like I needed to call and apologize to this person, and I did not want to do it. And I hesitated for a while because first of all, I thought that was stupid. I thought that was dumb. Like, what am I even apologizing for? And see, this is what it's like. And this is one thing I want to talk about too before we get off tonight, is this is why it's important to have a relationship with Christ, because you will deny yourself. And you need to understand that. right? So in this particular situation, I did not feel like I was wrong. I told you why. I felt very justified. They did me wrong. They thought they were better than me. I thought, if anything, that person needed to apologize. No, I needed to. And for years, I didn't understand that. But after a heart talk moment, here we go. Heart talk led me to apologize. After a heart talk moment, here we go. You know why you had to apologize? Because of your heart, because of the resentment that you held in your heart, because that resentment is toxic. That's unforgiveness. I forgave you. Who are you not to forgive that person? Even if that was the case, that's how they feel. You and your mama did have a lot going on at that time, regardless of how you feel about that or who had a judgment of that. But whether that was the case or not, you can't control that person. You can control you. And I don't care how people treat you is not a justification to hold that resentment in your heart. It doesn't mean you saying it's okay. It doesn't mean you letting people off the hook, but it means that, what do they say? Holding on to resentment and unforgiveness is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to get sick and die. So you're poisoning yourself because you want to get at somebody else. So examine your fruit and give yourself room to grieve, because many of us have that inhibited grief. It's held up for years and years, and for us, many of us, generations. I've had quiet times and just healing, personal, just heart, just release sessions. And I promise I didn't feel like I was releasing for just me. I feel like I was releasing for my mama, my grandmama. I remember talking to my mom about things, and just I would share some revelations I would get about stuff like this. I'd be like, you know what, mommy, we were mad at this person. But when I was sitting thinking about it, I'm like, I'm not justifying what they did, but I feel sorry for them that they were even in a situation to do that to people that they love. Does that mean I have to subject myself to be around them all the time? No, not at all. But it does mean I don't need to be walking around holding this animosity in my heart. It's like living as a sacrifice. That's how I view a living sacrifice. I had to apologize for what? This person let me down. This person turned their back on me. Why should I do that? That was the story I made up to deal with the pain, that I was just sad that they were not there, that we weren't spending the time we used to spend, that we weren't doing the things we used to do. I was not going to their house the way I used to. They weren't coming to my, it wasn't happening. And I was sad about that. And I didn't know to just grieve that. So I had to make them the villain. I had to be the victim, because that's how I felt, so helpless. And really, a lot of it was, that person, I was attached to that person. I was close to them, real close to them. I wasn't close to my dad. So that person not doing it, my daddy not being there, my granddaddy being dead, it felt like abandonment. I felt abandoned all over again. So I had to make up a story to justify it. So I don't have to be sad. Let me be angry. Let me be cold. Let me be distant. Right? No. Mm-mm. We can say these people don't matter. We can say these things don't matter. It's really not so much about them. It's about us. It's about how God is trying to grow us. Every experience is trying to get us to grow. Let me see. I had anybody have any comments or questions? Anyone want to share? I said growth is uncomfortable. Great relationships need to grow. That can be uncomfortable at times. You have to love somebody, hold them accountable. You got to challenge them, right? That could be with parents and children, siblings, friends, business partners, wherever you find yourself, like friends, whatever. Any comments or questions anyone want to share? Sometimes you have to grieve. the when people have broken your trust. See, a lot of us armor up and don't deal with that, and we make up stories in our mind and deal with that. But you gotta grieve when somebody broke your trust, especially somebody that you love, right? Like we gotta grieve these things. Self-reflection. How will you know? Slow down, take some time, do some deep breathing, settle in. God is trying to speak to us. We need to listen. And dealing with grief, I find myself sometimes like wanting to get angry. Like I just like I'll get I used to be very snappy. I want to say used to. I guess I need to ask the people around if that's a used to. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Okay. But I know I'm doing better than I used to. That I know. I know that because of how my children respond to me. That part I absolutely know. Um, where was I going with that? I had a good point to make with that. It's oh, it's gonna come back. Okay, so I realized that a lack of trust, and I don't remember the exact thought where I was going with that, but it'll come back to me. But I realized that having that lack of trust um in myself, because see, a lot of times we upset with other people for letting us down, but we don't talk enough about how we let ourselves down, right? Some people say I don't have any regrets, and maybe they don't, but a lot of people do. Unspoken, very quiet, very silent. And like I said, I back to self-reflection and family relationships. You are the centermost of any relationship that you're going to have, and you have to make sure that you are working on yourself. And when you notice that you're bumping up on people around you, that it's just tension, it's problems, I really encourage you to lean in. And I know that leaning in is uncomfortable, but I want to encourage you to be what you desire to have. Be who you desire to have. I realize I might be the way that I am. However, I ask myself, what I want to get me back. I try to live my life. The scripture tells us, treat people how you want to be treated. And what I realize is some people don't love themselves enough to even want to be treated well. And you can't live everybody, that standard doesn't work for everybody. But for me, when I think about that, like I'm like, I really want to treat people and feel about people the way I want people to feel about me, even if they don't mess with me like that. I know I ain't everybody cup of tea. Everybody ain't mine. It's okay. But it ain't no love lost. And that goes for family, friends, strangers, right? But it's a reason why I was talking about being snappy and dealing with family relationships, but it'll come back to me. It'll come back. Um, but we need to be who or what we desire and hold that, like create a space for that and hold that. Because I believe that if you're the type of person that would even listen to this now or whenever you listen to it, I believe that you are a center part of transformation and change in a lot of people's lives, starting with your family. I feel like you and your family have a big part to play. I feel like you and your family are very powerful, right? And the role that you play in your family is very powerful. I think about my mother's commitment to her family and her love for her family, and she passed it down to me, and I like our family does a family call every Sunday at 4 o'clock, and I had not been getting on the call because sometimes when I get on the call, and it's like I feel like okay, it's been almost a year. I should be further than this, and I'm just not. I'm working through it, but I'm not. Certain things just hurt so bad. But when I got on the family call week before last, and my aunts and uncles were just telling me about, how much they love me, they miss me, and they want to see me because they miss my mama. And when they see me, it make me, it just help them think about my mama, and that's kind of the reason I don't want to see them. Um, because I guess I'm in that. I was reading through the stages of grief again. I guess I'm just in that denial stage. It's almost like certain situations I just don't want to deal with it. However, I have to. I get to. I'm still living so that I can. And they are important to me. That's why it hurts so bad because I associate them so much with her. Those are her siblings. I know them because of her, right? And um, but this is a space that's being held so that we can love on each other and support one another as we go through things, as is Heart Talk since September 1st of 2014. And so I believe that you're putting your family, and I said all of that to say, I feel like my mama passed that mantle down, and I'm not going to rush myself on, what my expectation of what that looked like. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to walk by faith and believe whatever God is showing me. And I believe that that's what God is calling you to do too. I believe that there are some people you might need to cut off. I believe that there are some people you might need to lean into. I feel like there are some people you probably need to have a conversation with. I feel like there are also some people that probably need to tell you some things you don't want to hear, but you need to hear, and it'll help you get better. But being in a space of self awareness and self reflection is very refreshing. However, I have not found it that refreshing when you don't have Christ, when you don't have that connection, like when you don't have that faith, right? And so I believe our love should be without conditions. I feel like you should love people without conditions. I don't think love should change. Now, I do believe boundaries should. So, as we think about healing challenging family relationships, understand that forgiveness does not equal reconciliation. We don't have to become besties, but maybe there are some people that you need to go back after. Maybe you weren't the one that said the wrong thing or did the out of the way thing or said the out of the way thing, but maybe you missed that person and you have the emotional capacity and the humility to go back and try to work it out. Try to see if we can talk through it and get to a resolve. Because it's not always about being right. Many times it's really not about being right. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be loved, we want to be appreciated. And all of us deserve that. I just believe that if you're here, if you're a member of the Heart Tribe, if you're growing and cultivating heart equity with us, your personal relationship is your personal wealth. All like, and that is the foundation of everything else. But when the next step out is family, however you choose to deal with them. I love my family. As I have grown, how I interact with my family and friends have changed, but I love them. I'm in a different season of my life. It's amazing. I have a friend. I have, I have, I have four children. Three of them are adults. I mean, out of the house, gone. I still can't believe this. This was like, it seemed like I had a house full of children, and then bam, I got one child. Back to one child, how I started, right? Me and Kevin. But then I have one of my dear friends. Now, we're the same age, but she has oh, I didn't call him his birthday today, a 5-year old and a 2-year old. I think I just laugh thinking about it because we are in and my little nephews, I love them. They're so precious. And, I love it because it helped me to not want no more babies, right? I'm in that little peculiar stage where people having grandbabies and babies, and I pray to God I ain't people. Okay, let's stick to grandbabies. So Um, I really enjoy them. I love them. I love when we get to hang out and spend time. We're also professionals, right? So we're in different places in our professional, like our schedules and stuff, and then with our family dynamic, right? And why is the reason why I was bringing that up. But one of the reasons why I bring that up is because relationships change and they grow, right? They change as they grow. And so she and I are just as close as we are been since we met in 97. We love each other, right? But I know that, I'm not, me and her not going to be hanging out, going to happy hour, right? We probably not going to be brunching either. Our hangout times are probably going to be on the playground and stuff like that because that's what's needed in that relationship right now. But I'm in a space where I realize that. So like, look, when we getting together, look, we going to be sliding down slides and running and playing and doing all the fun things. And sometimes I take Chris along with me because even though he isn't that little, he's still young enough to enjoy that and do it. And so I say that in a friendship relationship, but what about like in your romantic relationship, right? Um we have to be willing to be reflective at so many things. I want to blame on my husband, like I talked about earlier. You know, I think, a good husband should be this way and a good husband should be that way. And that's perfectly fine. And not saying that he don't do it. But it's like God had to tell me, you got to grieve that. In other words, let it go. But we understand it's a process to letting it go. It's a reason why this thing, it hurt that you don't have it. It hurt that it didn't work out. Right? But when I was able to grieve that, now I can embrace the relationship we have and I appreciate it. I remember when the pandemic happened and so many people started breaking up because they'd never been around each other. And I was like, I really do like being around you. And I see a lot of people who don't have that sentiment with the person that they love. I realize that that is a blessing. That's a gift. But if we're not being reflective, we just, you did it, you're wrong, you messed up, you hurt me, you did wrong. Look within. I believe, and this don't really matter on what your faith is. I believe you really look within and be aware and be reflective and really just think about what how you want to be treated and how you really want to feel. And think about somebody else. You can reach a resolve. You can agree to disagree, but still be cordial or loving and not have animosity. But you won't get that externally with other people if it doesn't first start within, right? So it's a scripture that came to mind I want to read, and we getting ready to close out. It's a scripture that came to mind that I want to read that really came like dropped in my spirit as I was preparing for Heart Talk. Anybody have any comments or questions? Anyone want to share as I'm getting ready to read this? Romans chapter 12 says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. Reasonable translate to rational in this particular one. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So, like the world will tell us, forget them. They did you wrong. You do them wrong. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth. The people will tell you, cut them off. You don't have time for that toxic. Yes and no. It's a way to deal with everybody. But those of us that have been called to be leaders, you present your body as a living sacrifice. When I had to call that family member and apologize, ooh, 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 I remember I said out loud, I said, God, I am not this mature. This ain't work. This did not work. And y'all know what? I don't even want to lie to y'all, but I think I didn't have to do it again, but I had to do something else similar to that with the same person. It's so crazy. I made myself forget. I did not want to do it. I did it begrudgingly. I did it. But I can honestly say that me and that person are in a much better space right now. And I don't even see that situation the way I used to. But let me tell you why. Because this is coming full circle. That's why I brought up the 4 kids too. Because when I got to a point in my life when I had my 4 children still and still taking care of them in the thick of it, I didn't have time to really be keeping up with a lot. I had a lot of things going on at that time. Was starting my businesses. We were running a mentoring program. It was just a lot going on. Sports. The kids were active in sports. It just was a very busy time in my life, and this went on for like at least a good 8, 9 year period. And when I went back and thought about that relationship with the person I had to apologize to that I didn't want to because I felt like they abandoned me, I realized that there were people in my life and my family younger than me that may have felt the same way about me because I didn't spend as much time with them anymore and wasn't checking in like I used to and doing the things I used to because I was taking care of my family. Like I had a reason, so I can't accept that other person having a reason. And that might not have been their reason. But I think sometimes we can pardon ourselves because we know why we did it. But when we reflect, it can help us be a catalyst for light and darkness, for salt where there's no flavor. It can really help us bring healing and change and deliverance and just transformation to some of the most terrible situations, man. Like I just believe God want to heal and restore our families. I feel like he want to heal and restore our land. And I don't think land is a metaphorical thing. I think it's a literal thing. I think the Lord want to restore us in so many ways, and I just believe it's just going to take people like us that have the courage to reflect, to connect and be aware, self-aware, not self-conscious, not worry about what people think about you. Paying attention to what you think about you, paying attention to why you're doing what you're doing. The Lord told me this. I heard a pastor say this, and it resonated with me so much. I didn't get a lot of the success that I was praying for because I wasn't ready for it. The Lord has been building my character. The Lord has been building my focus. And it's not that I have not had success, had a lot of it. But what I've been praying for and believing for, and sometimes it's like, would it ever work out? And just it's just been so clear to me that no, he's been kind that he didn't give me something that I wasn't ready for. Just like I wouldn't give my 12-year-old the car because he's not ready for that right now. He may be soon. We could get him ready for, but he's not ready for that right now. He's not ready for that responsibility. Even if he can drive, he's not ready for the responsibility of a car. And I believe that as we heal and heal our homes and heal our families, allow healing, the healing power of the Holy Spirit to move through, I believe that we're going to be surprised at how our relationships and our finances and our wealth is going to grow and be healed and be restored because we have the character, we have the actual foundation for it to stand on. So let me read um this scripture. I read this to y'all before. This is a scripture I feel like that changed me and mommy relationship. Romans 12:18 says, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. If it be possible. That's it. As much as possible. Push yourself to the limit to live at peace with all men. Okay? All right. Now, last one. Well, two more. Two more. First James. First James. No, excuse me, First James. First John First John 2 and 15 says, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world." That stuff will keep us in bondage. We don't need to lust after those things. We seek we seek the Lord. And this is the last one. And I'm gonna say this and we're gonna close out. Um, I used to think that healing and restoration in the family was impossible until I experienced it for myself, not just with my mom and dad, with aunts and uncles, with different family members. And guess what? I haven't reached a resolve with everybody in my family. I am still working through growing in relationships with many of my family members. But the reason why I know it's going to work out, it's all working out because it's worked out in the past. And as long as I have an open, sincere heart to be who I've been created to be and treat people how I want to be treated, which is nice and kind and loving, I know it's going to work itself out. Right? But I have to be willing, if at all possible, to live at peace. And sometimes that possibility gets stretched, but you push it. You push it because it's just like pushing that weight one more time at the gym. I gotta get with you, Miss Connie. I'm glad I said the gym. I gotta get with you. Like pushing that weight one more time. You feel like you can't do it, but you do it. But it's making you stronger every time. You can do it. You're the one. You've been called to be that one. You have what it takes. I promise you, you do. You might not feel like you do, but I promise you, you do. And this the last, I say it's the last one. All right. Hebrews 13 and 8 says, Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. And this morning I was processing some of this, and this scripture came up in our prayer time. And I just wanted to share that with you. If you ever feel like your foundation isn't solid, that's definitely a foundation that's solid that I've found. And Hebrews 11 and 1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." So let's work by faith. Let's walk by faith. Let's set boundaries, not walls. Let's love one another. And I encourage you as we close out, what relationships do you think about this? What relationships do you need to reevaluate? Personal, professional, family and friends, um, locations, spaces, places, communities. And what do you need to let go of? What do you need to allow yourself to grieve? Not so much that it's just going to go away, but it won't consume you. It won't make you sick. So think about that. We're going to be back. Remember, every Tuesday we are doing Heart Talk at 8 p.m. I'm excited to let you know that my weekly show, The Heartline with Adelai Brown, and to be back. Very similar to Heart Talk, but I'll be having interviews. We'll have specific topics coming in and just doing more heart work. It's going to be in the daytime. So we have a nighttime session and we'll have a daytime session. And I'm really this is in honor of mommy. The last recording that I did of the podcast was the morning before I found out that she passed away. And she was very encouraging for me to just get out there and do your thing, baby, because people need to do this work. And she just always told me this because she always said she couldn't believe it. I know I say it all the time, but that's my testimony. Like she could not believe it that we healed like that because I leaned in um to doing this work and just the ripple effect it's had on not just our family but the communities that our families impact, not just us but those that we've impacted. So be on the lookout. I'll be emailing y'all information. It's gonna be on Spotify. We're gonna be on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, all the places that you find podcasts. I'll make sure that you get that information. And remember Wednesday prayer every Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. And I think that's it. That's all that I have. Anybody have any comments or questions? Anything you want to share before we close out tonight? Well, I just want to thank y'all for being here. Just having y'all here, spending this time, knowing that we're doing this work together is everything for me. It's just such a blessing to be doing hard work and knowing. I think it's like 0.01% of the Earth's population does this type of inner healing work. And I mean, we could see that in the earth. That's why the world is in the shape it's in. So let's just keep being diligent. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep showing up for ourselves. Because when we show up for ourselves, we show up for everybody else. Everybody, especially those that came before us and those behind us. And remember, what relationships do you need to reevaluate? Personally, professionally, family, or friends? And what do you need to let go of? What do you need to grieve? All right. I love y'all. I will see y'all next week. Remember, share this information with anyone you think could benefit from it. Check out the YouTube channel. It's live on YouTube. You can go back and catch the replay anytime. And let's get the message out. Y'all like, comment, subscribe. Help me get out, how they say, in the algorithm so we could keep doing this work. And let's do this for each other. Okay? All right. I love y'all.